ago, more than 300,000 people were killed during Japan's invasion of the eastern Chinese city of Nanjing in a span of 6 weeks. The Chinese flag was lowered to half-mast this morning at the Memorial Hall for the victims of Nanjing Massacre by Japanese invaders, which is located in the city of Nanjing. In about 10 minutes' time, a memorial ceremony will begin there. Commemorations will also be held across the country. And for a preview of today's events, let's check in with CGTN reporter Wu Bing at the Memorial Hall of the victims in the city of Nanjing. Wu Bing, describe for us the atmosphere there. How do things look like where you are?
Well, Zhongshi, in about 10 minutes, the 9th memorial ceremony for the victims of Nanjing Massacre by Japanese invaders will be held in Nanjing, East China's Jiangsu province. At the memorial hall for the victims, the atmosphere is quite solemn. Here we see over 3,000 representatives. They are here attending the ceremony. The representatives include survivors, descendants of the survivors, veterans, high-ranking officials, soldiers, doctors, teachers, and etc. Earlier this morning, the Chinese national flag were raised and then lowered to half-mast. Well, for today's ceremony, it'll start precisely at 10 o'clock. First, people here will sing national anthem together, and then there will be a 1-minute tribute. Sirens will start to blare and the entire city will come to a halt. And then the People's Liberation Army will lay wreaths on the stage, and we are also expected to hear a high-ranking official address the ceremony. And then students from Nanjing will read Ode to Peace, and at last the ceremony will conclude in the ringings of bells and the release of thousands of doves representing peace. 钟时。
Moving the Memorial Hall of the victims of the Nanjing Massacre said they have collected over 400 sets of historical relics that reveal more evidence of Japan's aggression against the Chinese. What more can you tell us about that?
Right, so at the end of November this year, the Memorial Hall for the victims of Nanjing Massacre by Japanese invaders announced it had collected 453 historical relics so far this year, providing concrete evidences of comfort stations, biological weapons, and militaristic education of Nanjing children by the Japanese Imperial Army, which is during the war against the Japanese aggression, which is from 1930. 1945. Well, among all the evidences, they have the earliest record of the so-called comfort station. That is in the diary of a Japanese soldier called Jun Arai. He recorded in detail that how he left Japan for China by ship and how Japanese troops treated wounded soldiers, robbed civilians, and especially established comfort stations in Nanjing on January the 1st, 1938. Well, experts say that these newfound evidences, together with other evidences, could refute Japanese right-wingers' denial and also Japanese politicians' vague attitudes towards comfort women. 钟时。
We appreciate that report from you. Thank you so much. Extensive documents have shown that during the Japanese Army's 14-year occupation of China, it engaged in some of the worst crimes against humanity in history. The Nanjing Massacre was one of them.
In 1931, the Imperial Japanese Army invaded Manchuria in China's northeast and occupied vast swaths of land there. Some 45 million casualties were recorded. The Japanese war policy: plunder, kill, and burn. And that was given full play in December 1937, when it seized the eastern city of Nanjing, the then capital of the Republic of China. According to the Nanjing War Crimes Tribunal in 1947, more than 300,000 people were massacred over the course of 6 weeks. Over 200,000 women were raped, tortured, and killed. Many were forced into sex slavery. Dozens of mass graves have been discovered over the decades. In 1998, more than 60 years later, the remains of 208 people were recovered from a relatively small grave. In 2014, the Chinese government designated December 13th, the day Nanjing fell, as a national memorial day.
And for more insight, Teng Jianqun, research fellow at the China Institute of International Studies, joins me here in the studio. Mr. Teng, great to have you on our special program today. Japan's militarism and imperialism, this is a hard topic for the Chinese people. But also some of us here in China feel that there might not have been enough reflection and remorse on the part of the Japanese when it comes to this topic, when it comes to history between China and Japan. How should we understand Japan's past militarism?
Yeah, militarism in Japan in the past actually did cause a lot of suffering for the regional countries, not only for China, but also for some other countries, for example, in Southeast Asia, and also for Japanese themselves. And even today, the Japanese still, suffering from such, militarism, because Japan, even today, is not a normal state under the control of the United States. And some politicians today would like to escalate the war preparation and also the defense budget for the future, war. So this is a dangerous tendency for Japan and for the region, because such return of militarism will give regional countries again some suffering in the future. So we should be very cautious towards such development in Japan, especially in recent years.
You heard from a reporter just now, attending the memorial today are some of the families and descendants of the victims and those caught up in the war. At the time, for them, of course, it carries special significance to remember their families. But then on a national level, why do you think this national memorial held regularly here in China is important for the Chinese nation as a whole?
Yeah, we should learn lessons from history, because the lessons can give us some, significance to the future, and we can learn lessons to see about the preparation for dealing with the challenges like the militarism and some other challenges at this moment. And of course, we can learn lessons from history for the rejuvenation of our country. This is actually a very great course for the Chinese people at this moment.
Mr. Teng, we're just moments away, minutes away from the start of that memorial service. Well, we'll wait for that. Let me also get your take on how Japan's reflection of history, or the lack of, has impacted China-Japan ties, because these have been very painful chapters in the relationship between those two countries, and failure to address some of these historical issues has come up over and over again and impacted the relations at critical points. Can you give us a wrap-up of how a lack of understanding, a lack of remorse when it comes to Japan's militarism past has dented the relationship?
I don't think this is a misunderstanding or some other concept from the Japanese politicians, the right politicians. They denied the reality.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Teng. I think our memorial service is getting underway. And you're looking at live pictures coming in from Nanjing, where a national memorial has gotten underway to remember the victims of the Nanjing Massacre by Japanese invaders. Families of some victims and survivors are in attendance. Thousands of people will sing the national anthem before observing a minute of silence. And a senior official of the Communist Party of China will deliver a speech. If you're just joining us here on CGTN, you're looking at live pictures from Nanjing, where a national memorial is underway to remember the victims of the Nanjing Massacre by the Japanese invaders. On December 13, 1937, the then Chinese capital of Nanjing fell to the Imperial Japanese Army.
The National Memorial Day of Nanjing Massacre now begins. Play the Chinese national anthem. Please stand in silent tribute to the Nanjing Massacre victims. Silent tribute is over. Please lay a vase to the victims of the Nanjing Massacre.
请中共中央政治局常委、中央
We
书
are
记处
going
书
to
记
have
蔡奇同
the
志讲话。
members of the political bureaus of the CPC Central Committee, Secretary of the Secretariat of the CPC Central Committee, Mr. Cai Qi, to address us. Dear comrades, dear friends, today we are gathering at the solemn occasion in memory of the Nanjing Massacre victims, in memories of whose lives has been taken innocently by the Japanese troops. In remembrance of those who devoted their lives for the liberations of the Chinese nations and national heroes, in remembrance of those who joined hands with the Chinese people to fight against the Japanese invaders, in remembrance of those international friends who have fought together with the Chinese people, and express Chinese people's determination for the peace and development. We are here to express our solemn aspiration for peaceful development. In 1931, the militarism in Japan has conducted the 7/7 event and occupied the majorities of the northeast part of China. In 1937, the Japanese troops have designed the Lugouqiao incident in China. In 1939, the Japanese troops invaded Nanjing with naked brutality and created the Nanjing Massacres. 300,000 Chinese lives perished under the Japanese troops. Women and children were raped and killed. The ancient Chinese capital, once prosperous and standing in the heart of China, becomes the hell in the earth. The Japanese troops have committed the atrocities that is a crime against all the humanities. It is a dark page in the human history. The Japanese barbarism will always be engraved in the history. The evidence is undeniable. The Japanese barbarism has triggered the Chinese fights against the Japanese invasions, and the Chinese people are fighting for our own nation, our own people, and the justness of the humankind. The Communist Party of China has always been fighting at the front line of the war against the Japanese invasion. And we have always shouldered the responsibilities for the rejuvenation of the Chinese nations. We become the pillars in the war against the Japanese invasions after 40 years of the bloodshed wars, after paying a heavy duty for over 330,000 Chinese troops. We have won the battle against the Japanese invasion, and this is also a major contribution to the global effort to work against the fascism. Dear comrades, dear friends, one thing we can tell those deceased is that after 85 years of the effort, our country has seen a tremendous changes. We are entering a new chapter for the modernizations of China, and people in China are living in a moderately prosperous life. The nation of China is standing among all the other nations in the world. Today, this year, we have successfully concluded the 20th National Congress, paving the way for an all-rounded socialist society and the all-rounded rejuvenations of the Chinese nation. In order for the coordinated development of the full maintenance, we have conducted all fronts works, and this is also going to lay the foundations for the achievements of the target in the second centenary. The difficulties and sufferings in the history is never going to be forgotten, while the pace forging ahead is never going to be slowed down. We are going to fully implement President Xi Jinping's ideologies about socialism in the new eras. We should not forget our initiations and remember our missions. We should be humble and work hard. We are going to fight against all the difficulties, and we should remember the facts in the history. And bearing on the legacies of the histories, we are going to write a new chapter for the socialism in the new era. On the journeys ahead, we are going to stick to the leadership of the Communist Party of China. The Communist Party of China is the core force leading us ahead. People in China and are able to turn their destinies in the contemporary history and achieve such a result. At its root, it is because of the fundamental leadership of the Communist Party in China. The comprehensive constructions of the model of the socialism with the Chinese characteristics means that we need to stick to the leaderships of the CPC Central Committee and carries on the missions of the rejuvenations of the Chinese nations, and make sure the CPC Central Committee is going to lead us all into the new era. We are also going to make sure that we are going to be united more than ever around the CPC Central Committees across the country. All the people, all the ethnic groups is going to be around the CPC Central Committee. With utility, we are going to forge ahead. On the journey ahead, we are going to work on the Chinese way of socialism. This is a way of modernizing our society based on the realities in China. The CPC has led the Chinese people to work through hundreds of the years' journeys, especially in the past 10 years. We have written a new chapter for the social stabilities as well as the economic new achievements. To achieve the rejuvenations of the Chinese nation is entered into an undeniable trajectory. We are also creating a new chapter for the human history, paving the new choices for the humankind to enter into the modernization stages. We must grasp the root and essence of the Chinese nation with the socialism of the Chinese characteristics. We must place the national development at the core of all of our purpose. We are also going to stick to our confidence, pursue innovation based on our initial purpose. The rejuvenation of the Chinese nation is going to be achieved on the journey ahead. We are also going to spread the spirit of the fight against fight. The Communist Party of China, as well as the Chinese people, grew stronger in the fight against all the enemies. The bravery to fight is one of the features and characteristics of the Communist Party of China. We are also going to use the way to fight against all the enemies as one major method as we are moving into the future. Currently, we are in a historic period where all the uncertainties are unfold ahead of us. We are going to strengthen our confidence, stick to our backbones. We are going to face the difficulties right on, coordinated all the elements for the development, relying on the spirit to fight. We are going to write a new chapter for the development in China. On the journey ahead, we are also going to stick to the principle of create a shared destiny for humankind. Create a shared destiny for humankind is also the purpose for all the nations in the world. It is a flag that we must stick to. 50 years after the normalizations of the Chinese-Japanese diplomatic relations, we bear the fruit in all the areas, creating the well-being of the nations both in China and Japan. China and Japan should treat each other with trust, summarizing the experience that we have on the history, and have a clearer understanding of the directions for the two nations moving into the future. We are also going to stand on the right side of the history. We are also going to stand on the right side of the humankind, promote the shared destiny of humankind. Dear comrades, dear friends, the Communist Party of China has been working on the rejuvenations of the Chinese people and also works on the peaceful development of the Chinese people. The mission is huge, but it is glorious. In the new era, on the new journey, the party, the nation, and all the ethnic groups is going to be united closer around the cause of the Communist Party of China, represented by Comrade Xi Jinping. We are going to work hard and forge ahead to all-rounded development of Chinese modernizations with socialist characteristics. Chinese people is willing to join hands with the people around the world and create a better future for the mankind. Nanjing Youth representatives will cite the Ode to Peace. The Yangtze River rains through the city of Nanking. The flowers of Zhongshan Mountains are forever blossoming. In 1937, the tragedy in Nanjing befell. On December the 13th, the city was invaded. The Japanese invaders committed despicable crimes. Bodies covered the field, and blood spilled the Yangtze River. 300,000 lives perished. In 6 weeks, the devastation spreads across Nanjing and all the country. The world has been shocked, and the whole country in mourning. The cold winter was the witness to the calamity. It is an unprecedented event and a dark page in human history. It is tragical yet alarming. Weakness and poverty lead to shame, and invasion and separation plagued our country, our motherland. But the people were awakened and strive for independence and liberation. Reform and rejuvenation have pursued the country. But we should never forget the history, as it is a lesson for the descent. Pains and sufferings are what make us strong. 85 years of struggle have been engraved into history. We will never be defeated, but grow stronger ever since. On the National Memorial Day of the 2022, we are once again convened on this solemn occasion, where white flowers, reverence of the victim, together we wrote this ode to peace. Demonstration that rightness and justice never dies. Groundness and harmony leads to prosperity. Peace and development are the theme of our times. National rejuvenation is the dream for generations. The words of commemoration were imprinted on the tripod. The history will be remembered and forever be engraved. The history shall be remembered and forever be engraved. The history shall be remembered and forever be engraved. The national memorial ceremony of the Nanjing Massacre comes to an end. Please come to the Nanjing Massacre exhibition of facts.
Indeed, a very solemn day there in Nanjing as the nation remembers the victims killed in the mass massacre by the Japanese troops in 1937 and 1938. And let's talk about all of that with my studio guest, Mr. Teng Jianqun here. Mr. Teng, let me just briefly get your impression of the event. For me, it's not about just dwelling on the past, a lot of uplifting messages, also about the future that China wants, a peaceful future, and how China can contribute to building a shared destiny for all mankind. What about you?
Yeah, as Comrade Cai just mentioned, that we are facing challenges and also we are facing opportunities. We should take opportunities for the rejuvenation of our nation and also for the peace and the stability in this region. Actually, for decades, China has been a stabilizer of peace and development, and also China is engine of world economy. But some other countries would like to manipulate the contradictions, the troubles in this region for their own sake. For example, the so-called strategic competition initiated by the United States and participated by some U.S. military alliance in this region. So I think this is a very crucial moment for China. China would like to share its achievements and to share its development. We would like to establish a common community with shared future. So we should try our best to get prepared well and to share our peace and stability with other countries.
Mr. Teng, we appreciate your time and your company as always. Thank you so much for coming in today. And that wraps up our special coverage of China's 9th National Memorial Day for the Nanjing Massacre victims. Sirens have sounded across Nanjing in East China's Jiangsu province this morning as the country held a state memorial for the 300,000 victims of the 1937 Nanjing Massacre. I'm Zhong Shi in Beijing. Thank you so much for watching.